18, a milestone, a celebration, a turning point. I had imagined my birthday for months. My friends laughing, my father smiling, the warmth of a family that actually cared. But reality was never kind to me. The house was filled with balloons, cake, and the hollow laughter of people who were expected to be family. I stood by the doorway, watching them chatter and clap as my stepfather, Greg, cleared his throat. Everyone fell silent, and my heart sank, sensing the storm before it hit. "Happy birthday," he said, eyes scanning the room, then landing on me, his lips twisted into a smirk. "I suppose I should say something, though, to be honest. I still can't get over the fact that you're here at all. Another man's mistake, after all." The words hit me like a punch. The room blurred. My friends froze mid-smile. My mother's face fell, and all I could hear was the echo of those 6 words. Another man's mistake. Not a birthday greeting, not a wish for happiness, just cruel, biting judgment wrapped in mock civility. I wanted to speak, to defend myself, to scream that I wasn't some mistake, but my voice caught in my throat. Tears stung my eyes as humiliation bubbled inside me. I felt every year of his coldness, every word of disdain, every subtle slight. Years of being invisible compress into that single, cruel moment. Without another word, I turned and ran. My shoes pounded against the driveway, each step fueled by rage, grief, and a desperate need to escape. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to get out of that house, away from the man who had called me unworthy on the day I became an adult. And then I saw him standing quietly at the edge of the street, partially hidden by the shadows of the old oak tree. A man I didn't recognize, yet something in his gaze felt familiar, warm, intent. He stepped forward, and before I could speak, he said softly, "I've been waiting for you. I'm your real father." My chest tightened, my knees felt weak, and disbelief clawed at me. Could it be true? A father who wasn't just an accident in someone else's life, but someone who had actually searched for me. That night, as the cold wind hit my face and I stared at the stranger, I realized my life was about to change. I didn't yet know the depth of the betrayal I had suffered, nor the journey of revenge and revelation that awaited me. But for the first time, hope sparked amid the ruins of my 18th birthday. The streetlights flickered as we walked silently toward a nearby cafe. The stranger, my real father, moved with a quiet confidence, and I couldn't stop staring at him. Every line on his face, every scar in his hands seemed to tell a story I had been denied all my life. "I know this is a lot," he said gently, breaking the silence, "but you deserve to know the truth." I swallowed hard, my anger still simmering from my stepfather's words. Truth, that word felt heavy, like it had been buried under years of lies. He began to speak, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "My mother," he explained, "had been young and scared when she became pregnant with me. Circumstances forced her into a difficult situation, and she married Greg, a man who promised stability, though he never intended to love or accept me as his own. My real father's attempts to reach me had been blocked, ignored, or dismissed, leaving him desperate but patient, always hoping that one day he could find me. He handed me a small box, worn around the edges. Inside were letters, old photographs, and a faded hospital bracelet. Each piece of paper told a story: a letter he had sent when I was 5, never received, photos of him waiting outside my school, watching from a distance, notes expressing his longing and love. I ran my fingers over the photos, a little boy me smiling under the wrong father's roof, unaware of the world that had been keeping him from the only man who truly wanted him. My chest tightened, and I felt tears prick the corners of my eyes. Rage, sorrow, and longing tangled inside me, each emotion sharper than the last. "You weren't a mistake," he said softly, reading my expression. "You were never his to judge. Everything he's called you, none of it defines you. Your worth isn't tied to his cruelty." I wanted to scream at the universe for all the lost years, for every time I had believed his lies, every moment I had wished for a father's approval that would never come. And yet, with this man beside me, I felt a strange warmth, a sense that maybe finally I could rebuild what had been broken. But as hope flickered in my heart, so did anger. How dare he, Greg, treat me like this, to taint the first day of my adulthood with humiliation. I clenched my fists. I wouldn't be powerless anymore. I wouldn't let him define me. That night, as my real father drove me home, I made a silent vow. I would uncover every lie, confront every betrayal, and make sure the man who had called me another man's mistake would one day recognize my true worth. The seeds of revenge had been planted, and with them the promise of reclaiming my life. After the revelations of the night before, life became a different battlefield. I walked into school the next day with a fire burning inside me, a mixture of anger, grief, and determination. Every glance, every whisper, every sneer from classmates or teachers who had once echoed my stepfather's indifference now felt like fuel. I wasn't going to be the broken boy anymore. My real father became my anchor, guiding me through this new life. He taught me patience, the value of strategy, and the subtle art of taking control without losing my dignity. Revenge isn't just about retaliation, he said one evening as we pored over old letters at his home. It's about reclaiming your power, showing the world, and yourself, what you are capable of. I started small. I focused on school, on excelling where I had always struggled under Greg's shadow. Teachers noticed the change. Friends started seeing the confident, unbroken version of me emerging from the ruins. I trained myself to smile when confronted by cruelty, to answer insults with calm intelligence rather than anger, and to let success speak louder than words. Then came the subtler moves exposing the truth behind my stepfather's image. I began quietly gathering stories from relatives, neighbors, and friends who had witnessed his cruelty or deceit. I learned how he manipulated my mother, how he projected his failures onto me, how the man everyone praised publicly was a tyrant in private. Every piece of information was a brick in the fortress of justice I was building. At the same time, I nurtured the bond with my real father. His stories of patience, of watching over me from afar, and of dreaming about this reunion became my shield against the bitterness that threatened to consume me. The anger was still there, sharp and hot, but it was controlled now, honed into something purposeful. By the time my 18th birthday's anniversary approached, I was ready. I had transformed the shame Greg had inflicted into a driving force. I was smarter, stronger, more confident, and completely aware of the power of timing. The sweet revenge wouldn't be about shaming him through anger. It would be about revealing the truth, letting the world see his lies while I stood tall, unshaken, and triumphant. That night, as I sat with my real father, I realized something. This wasn't just revenge. It was a reclamation of everything I had lost. My childhood, my dignity, my right to be loved for who I was. Greg had tried to break me, but he had only forged me stronger. And when the time came, he wouldn't just see me as another man's mistake. He would see the man I had become, a man he could never touch or control, a man who finally belonged to the family he tried to deny me. The day of reckoning arrived quietly, almost unassumingly. It was the anniversary of my 18th birthday, the day Greg had branded me another man's mistake. But this time, I wasn't the same boy who had run from his cruelty. I had grown into someone strong, deliberate, and ready to confront the lies that had haunted me for years. I invited the family to a small gathering, claiming it was just a celebration. But beneath the laughter and casual chatter, I had orchestrated every detail. My real father sat beside me, his calm presence steadying my nerves. He didn't need to say a word. We shared an unspoken understanding. Tonight, the truth would speak for itself. When Greg arrived, he carried his usual smug air, unaware of the storm quietly building around him. I waited for the moment when all eyes were on me. Then, with measured clarity, I began to speak. I want to share something important, I said, voice strong but steady. Something that changes the way you see me, and the life I've lived these past 18 years. I unfolded the letters, photographs, and messages from my real father, recounting the truth of my birth and his relentless search for me. I spoke of Greg's cruelty, of the words he had used to diminish me, and the impact it had on my life. I didn't yell, I didn't beg, every word was a revelation, calm and undeniable. The room went silent. Faces shifted from curiosity to shock. Greg's confident smirk faltered as I detailed the lies he had built around me, the false authority he had claimed, and the love he had never given. My real father stepped forward, confirming every story, every effort he had made to find me, every sacrifice he had endured to finally be with his son. For the first time, I saw Greg falter, not just embarrassed, but powerless. The truth had stripped him of the control he thought he held over me. I realized in that moment that revenge isn't about breaking someone, it's about rising above them. And so I embraced my real father. The warmth, the acceptance, and the love I had longed for filled the room, leaving no space for bitterness. Tears streamed down my face, but they were not of pain, they were of release, of reclamation, of victory over the shadows that had haunted me. Greg slunk into silence, a defeated spectator to the life he could never touch or ruin again. I didn't seek his apology, nor did I crave his acknowledgement. I had my truth, my father, and the strength I had forged through betrayal. That night, as we walked home together, I felt lighter than I ever had. I was no longer a mistake. I was a son, a man, and a survivor, someone who had turned betrayal into power, humiliation into clarity, and cruelty into the sweetest form of justice.